development can only come in a nation where there is peace and tranquility, where there is progress and development, where the people, the led, and also the people do the right things to ensure that things go well. Today on Talk Point, we'll be focusing on development in Nigeria, and we'll also be looking at how to promote peace and also linking it to the EndSars that ended some 4 years ago. My name is Omololu Urosonwo, and welcome to Talk Point on Lagos Television. Just like I said earlier, there cannot be development if there is no peace, and that is also dependent on how we handle things in the society. My guest today is Nelson Ekujumi, and we'll be looking at these issues and also relating it to 4 years after the EndSars, what has come out of it. Nelson, nice to have you on Talk Point.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, good day to you as well.
Yes, Nelson, let me first ask you, the progress of any nation is dependent on the things that are involved, looking at development, looking at tranquility, looking at peace. That's when we can talk of the progress of any nation, and looking at our leaders and the led also have the roles to play in governance. Can you speak to this?
Yes, it is important for any society to recognize that for it to be able to make progress, there must be peace. But even in the quest for peace, the society must ensure that she disseminates or she provides mechanisms for, dispensing justice to all and sundry. Because if you have peace without justice, it will be like the peace of the graveyard. And you and I know that the peace of the graveyard is only temporary. We don't know what happens at night when we sleep. So it is important that in our quest for peace, all that we need to do to promote peaceful coexistence, such as provision of mechanism for justice wherever people are, because it's impossible, or it cannot be imagined that people will live in an environment and they will not have one issues or another within themselves or against one another. And that is why for the International Day of Peace this year, 2024, the theme by the United Nations is cultivating the culture of peace, because all over the world, in our communities, even in our homes, peace has become a very, very prized, possession that everybody is aspiring for. And in that light, it is important for us to recognize that the essence of laws is to guide human conduct, whether at the level of government, whether at the level of institutions, whether at the level of individuals. So long as you live within the confines of the law, then it's very apparent that peace will come to be. But when you have a situation whereby people do not respect the laws of the land, or institutions of states attempt to undermine the rights of individuals, definitely there will be friction. And it is only when you create a mechanism such that people know that if I'm aggrieved, if I have been unjustly offended, there are mechanisms for me to approach. In that way, we'll be promoting a culture of peace. So peace and justice, they are intertwined.
Okay.
If there's no justice, your ability to make provision for peace will be a tall order, because some persons will tell you, no, I must get revenge. But when you know that there are mechanisms of state, of the society, to ensure that if you are aggrieved, you can approach that mechanism. So you say, okay, I will not take the laws into my hands. The state has provided, I want peace to reign. But even wanting peace to reign must be because you have that belief that you get justice. So it is important that as we run after peace, as we desire peace, we must always ensure that there is justice.
Okay, that brings me to the question of the EndSars that ended some 4 years ago. You recall that on the 20th of October, year 2020, there were skirmishes and there were protests from the 8th to the 21st of October in 2020. And that actually led to a whole lot of damages, arson and things like that, which does not augur well and which has led the state and the nation backward for some years. Now, looking at that, a panel of inquiry was set up by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, tagged the Lagos State Judiciary Panel of Inquiry and Restitution for victims of SARS-related and other issues. Now, if we're looking at that, you were part of those that listened to the panel, and I believe that the panel sat for 1 full year in total. Now, what were the things that really came up, and what really do you think led to the protest?
Well, the protest was born out of genuine agitations as a result of police brutality. Because over time, we have repeatedly had stories. There's nobody among us who is living in this geographical territory called Nigeria. If you don't know somebody who has been a victim of abuse, you have a family member. So it has touched, even if you have not been affected directly, you have not suffered it, you will know 1 or 2 persons, either in your family or in your neighborhood, who has been a victim. And the agitation was about how do we reform the police? Because the unit called SARS, that's the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, was set up for a specific purpose to address the violent crime of armed robbery. And that unit, between you and I, if you look at the scorecard, we're able to address the challenges of why they were set up. But along the line, that unit, just like so many other units of institutions of states, derailed from its core functions. And that led to avalanche of reports of arbitrary arrests, arbitrary killings, arbitrary detention, extortion, dehumanization. As somebody who was at the panel between 27th of October 2020 to 19th of October 2021, I will tell you for free, I saw things at the panel, because that was a panel that was set up to address people's grievances. We saw cases, people brought cases as old as 40 years ago.
Really?
Yes. We saw cases of 25 years ago. But for some of those cases, there were no traces. The documents, the evidences were almost non-existent. So some of them could not get justice. If at all we could have explored those cases to know whether those victims, alleged victims, were saying the truth. Because that was a panel where you see people come, make claims, and when it comes to cross-examination by counsels, you just see that the person that came and said this person died or this and that was only telling us pack of lies. Because all these, I saw cases that when it starts, you'll be wondering that, how could they have done all this to this man or his brother? Then along the line, in the course of cross-examination, the lawyer will stand up and say, my friend, you know you are on oath. I put it to you that all you have told this panel, you were not witness to it, you were told. And the man will say, yes, I was told. And you'll be like,
So that means it didn't really happen to you.
It didn't happen.
It was
you didn't even see it. Second, in law, there is nothing like I was told. Because when you are told, you can be told, you could have been told different version entirely. But if you say you see, like for example, I was there, I saw it. I saw situations whereby a witness will come, and when the witness will narrate the experience, a victim, and I will be like, is this true? Would they have done this to a human being? And in the course of questioning whether that man or woman was saying the truth, the man will say, I have evidence to show, even on my body, And the man or woman will be told, okay, let us see. And you see scars. And I'll be like, how can human being do this to a human being like themselves? So the purpose of that panel was to remedy those abuses where it is proven. Because we had cases of persons who will come and tell you X, Y, Z. And you know, even in law, if you say somebody died, the court will ask you, who certified him dead? Because you are not a medical practitioner, so you are not an authority to certify something. So if you are saying he died, you don't have authority to. You must bring evidence, a medical report, a death certificate. We saw persons who lost loved ones. We saw persons whose loved ones were missing. And in the course of examination, we couldn't make a head or tail. There were persons who came to the panel and said, I was attacked on the road by a policeman. And when he is asked, you say, I don't know the policeman. Which police station did you report to? I don't know. So how do you get justice for such a person? How do you verify that he or she was saying the truth? So by and large, the beauty of the panel sitting was that the panel sitting was thorough. The panel sitting was diligent. But sadly for some of us who sat through to listen to cases of which we felt that from what we have seen and heard, that there is need for reforming our police. We also saw policemen who were dehumanized. We saw, there was a particular lady, there was a particular case of a lady in this police, Mafuluku, the police station there that was burnt. The son had just graduated. The woman is I think she's an ASP, I can't remember her name. She had 2 sons. The boy had just graduated and the boy was working in Zenith Bank. That boy was stabbed to death by EndSars protesters. They killed him. They burnt everything in our.
When she gave that evidence, what was it like? Because if you lost somebody like that, there must have been reasons. What were the reasons given?
You know, you and I know very well that the agitation for EndSars became an insurrection. That's the truth. It became an avenue for political revenge by people who lost election in 2019. And they were like, if we cause anarchy, maybe this government will collapse. I'm telling you, okay, politically now.
Okay, if you say it was as a result of, or it was fueled, let me put it that way, by some columnists
they came into it, they saw opportunity.
Yes, but did actually, did the man's inhumanity come to play? Did it actually come to play from the security agencies, particularly the police, because in the course of interrogation or arresting people, was it actually seen or established?
No,
there?
Absolutely. For example, I wrote this book called Eyewitness, which has detailed all the cases, the counsels that appeared for both the petitioners and the defendants, as well as the panel's interventions along the line. And please, before we go, I told you the panel did a wonderful job in listening to cases, asking probing questions through counsels. But when the panel report came out, I'm a student of history. The conclusions that the panel arrived at was totally outside of the premise. It was like the panel, after doing all that beautiful work, now sat down somewhere. What somebody did not see, they now recommended. I'll give you a vivid example. There was one guy who said his brother, what's the boy's name? That his brother, is it Samuel? I'll remember the guy's name. He said his brother was killed at the Lekki toll gate by the army. on the 20th. And when he was being cross-examined, the counsel asked him, when this incident happened, you didn't attach a photograph of your brother in your petition. He said he was traumatized. The counsel said, okay, no problem. This your brother, this person that you claimed is your brother, because he now brought a picture of the young man lying in a pool of blood. He now said, this young man lying in a pool of blood, you said is your brother, right? He said, yes. He said, this location where the young man is, where is this location? The guy said it's the toll booth.
Toll booth.
Toll booth. The counsel now said, my friend, do you know that the toll booth is cemented, so there's no grass? Oh, he says, no. In the shanty, behind the...
So obviously the picture showed grass.
The picture showed, the guy was lying down within grasses.
Okay.
So it means they coached him. The counsel, because one of the beauty of the panel was that we saw cases where when somebody comes to make allegations, you know lawyers, they are skilled in the art of questioning. When they throw a question to you from this angle, they will come back from another angle. The same question, you won't know, so you'll be double speaking. He said, toll booth. The lawyer said, no, the toll booth is cemented. There's no grass in the toll booth. He now said, behind the shanty, behind the Oriental. The lawyer now said, okay, he said, is your brother. Do you have a police report to show that this incident happened at that place? He said, no. Where is the body? He said, we have taken him to our village in Adamawa. I remember very well, he said his village is the same with the former chief of defense staff, Alex Badi, that the guy has been buried. Do you have death certificate? I don't have. Do you have medical certificate to certify that the guy died? I don't have. Do you have autopsy reports? I don't have. Definitely, you know, when such a person comes to you and he was changing his story, you know that he was lying. Then...
Or could it have been as a result of ignorance? Because maybe when
you see, to add to it, the panel, when it was making its recommendation, he now said the family should be compensated for the guy that died, and the man that gave testimony also died.
How possible is that?
That is to show you the illogicality. You know, when you are perpetrating fraud, little things will give you out. You know, the guy came and gave that testimony in June 2021. The panel recommendation, the panel report, the man that gave testimony in June 2021, the panel recommended that the man died on October 20, 2020.
How come?
Well,
that means, did he resurrect again?
I don't know. I think that is a question you should throw to the panel. You know, so the panel, of all the good job it did, it messed up with his conclusion. The conclusion were totally outside the premise. You recollect that along the line, let me also report that along the line where the panel sat, we saw the plots by section of the media to just put that message out that people died. When the chief pathologist, Professor Obafunwa, former vice chancellor of the Lagos State University, came and gave testimony of 99 corpses that, you know, that autopsy was performed on. The man said they labeled all those corpses EndSars.
Okay.
What happened? Even before we left the panel that day, online medium were already splashing that Professor Bafunwa said they recovered 99 EndSars corpses at Lekki Toll Gate. That's
fake.
Fake news, misinformation. So even when the panel invited forensic experts too, those forensic experts said they looked through the venue, even though time was also a factor that did not allow them, you know, to be able to come up accurately. But that from what they saw that day, from the pictures, from the screening of the environment, that they even put out their number and their email, that people who must have suffered any loss at that place on the 20th should come out. They said nobody responded to them. Or rather, you see somebody who will tell you, when the army started shooting, I was standing in front of him. So when he shot at me, I started running. And I'm like, the military will shoot. And Brigadier General Ibrahim Taiwo, who represented the army, said they came with live bullets and blank bullets. You remember?
Yes.
And he said the bullets they came with, the live bullets were such that if they fire one, is to kill 5. It was 7.62 mm. I remember vividly well. So somebody will now tell you, I was standing in front of the military man, and he shot at me. And when the bullet hit me, I started running. I ran from Lekki Toge to Jerry Hospital, and you are like, what sort of lies are
Okay,
these?
time is not really on our side, and we need to just round up. From the eyewitness that you gave, and from what you have written here, we saw that there were 252 petitions received.
Absolutely.
About 186 attended to, and 52
because of time.
Sent back to the Ministry of Justice for further consideration.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, in that, were there, as we round up, have the recommendations been implemented? Of course, I know that the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu provided 200 million, and I know some people collected 10 million, and some had less.
Lulu, you were also at the panel, and you know very well that the Governor of Lagos State provided advance payments, and for cases that were dispensed, they were given the check immediately, because it was part of the terms of reference that the panel should dispense cases immediately. So those cases that could not be dispensed with, the files was sent back to the Ministry of Justice. But in the midst of that, when the panel recommendation came and it became merged in controversy, you also remember that the state government had to set up a committee to issue a white paper on it. And that committee found out that some of the recommendations of the panel were totally outside the context of, witnesses' statements or testimony.
Okay.
So be that as it may, I think majorly what we should be looking at is that we should reform every unit of our security agencies such that they don't, abuse the rights of citizens. In that way, we'll be able to prevent, we'll be able to maintain a culture of peace. Okay,
our time is not really on our side, but let me just give you 30 seconds. How do we stop fake news, disinformation? 30 seconds.
It's to ensure that whoever is involved is made to face the full wrath of the law. Our laws are very clear. If you malign, if you slander anybody, there are punishments stipulated by law. People should stop allowing sentiments to make people run haywire with fake news and defamation of character. That's the only way to stop it.
Thank you so much. We've been discussing promoting peace and development, lessons learned from the EndSars protest, which happened some years back. And my guest has been Nelson Ekunjumi. Thank you so much, Nelson, for being part of
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
767 and 112 are still the lines. Always call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Do what is right so that Nigeria and indeed Lagos states can get better. I am Omololu Sonwo saying bye-bye.